Driver's license testers. What's the worst thing a kid has done without batting an eye while taking the driving test? In my local area, a guy in his mid-20s failed the test for some reason. At this point in time, the results of the test were shared in the car. After being told he failed, he proceeded to get out of the car and grab an axe out of the trunk. I don't know any more details beyond that, but apparently it is why the results are shared inside the licensing building rather than in the car. Typically, yes. My tester told me as I was returning the car, "I'm not supposed to give you results, but you barely passed and I want you to promise you'll practice a little more before going out on your own." Requirement to pass is 83 points. I passed with, drumroll please, 83 points. Not a tester, but there was a license center next to the sporting goods store I worked at. A lot of people would come there and practice before their test out front in the straight on parking spots. A young lady, who only had her permit, managed to mix up the gas and brake and drove right through the front of the license center. I was told later that she was even more upset when they wouldn't let her reschedule her test for the following day since they cancelled her test she was pulling in to take when she wrecked the whole front of the building. It wasn't long after that they installed a bunch of bollards in front to protect the building. I was amazed at how marked up they had gotten in the first few months. "What do you mean I can't reschedule my test? Lady, you literally rammed a car into our office." Last year I was making a left turn at a light, and a car swerved into my lane and hit me. Turns out it was someone taking their driver's test. I'm not exactly sure how driver's test car insurance works, but the instructor told me we had to wait for the police and take details of everything. I am guessing the driver did not pass. Car accident was an automatic fail on my test, even if it wasn't your fault. It didn't happen to anyone I know, but it's still a checkbox you don't want. One of my classmates in high school failed his driver's test 6 times. During one test, he hit a pedestrian. My driver's ed teacher said that one kid reclined his seat all the way back, put one foot on the gas and the other on the brake, and grabbed the top of the wheel with one hand and said, "Let's go." Answered his phone. I went forward instead of in reverse when the tester was standing in front of me on the curb. I failed. I'm not a tester, but I asked my tester during my full license test what was the worst thing someone had done. Apparently there was an older gentleman who drove through 3 stop signs before the tester told him to pull over. The gentleman explained that he didn't want the license, but his family was pressuring him, so ran the signs on purpose to fail, made sure no cars were coming first. My best friend was coming to a 4-way stop sign in our small rural town. The tester said to go straight. So she did. Without stopping at the sign. Just drove right through without batting an eye. He basically told her, "Well, you failed. If you want to just drive back." My best friend's son just failed because he went the wrong way down a busy 4-lane road. Luckily, they made it safely into a parking lot and the testing administrator drove them back. My dad did testing for a few years and he once had a girl stop on railroad tracks. There was a train coming, slowly, but still it takes them a long time to stop, and it blasted the horn right into the car, passenger side, with the window open. This just made her freeze up even more. He had to reach his foot over to her side to hit the accelerator. Edit to at, in Canada you can do your driver's test in any car you choose because, in theory, you should be good enough at driving to not need an instructional car. So this car did not have dual pedals. My grandfather used to be a tester. He had one girl forget which way to turn the steering wheel, and they ended up in a ditch. Not a tester, but I heard about a girl in driver's ed who was driving on the interstate with a teacher and 3 other students. The teacher commented that they missed the exit, but they would just get off on the next one. I'm not sure what the girl's thought process was, but this girl pulled into the grass and tried to go against the traffic to go back to their missed exit. The teacher had to use her brake on the passenger side while the 3 other students screamed bloody murder. One of my kids has his driver's test this coming Wednesday, so I've been taking him out driving a bit. And his sister was learning a few years ago. I told them both about what to do if you miss your turn. You don't stop, You don't swerve. There will be a way to come back. You look for the first easy and legal stop, and you pull off, and figure it out. Or, you take the next exit, or turn at the next street, even if it's a long ways. That was actually my biggest fear for them, that they'd do something sudden like this. Okay, 3 stories. My ex drove a geo-tracker, tiny car. She pulled right into the parallel parking area and fit in so unbelievably easy, the tester made her do it properly. A girl in my driver's ed failed her test when she went to DMV because she turned into oncoming traffic. Not only was there a grass median, there was some of those skinny red-white poles for about 10 feet followed by a guardrail. Each side of the median was 3 lanes. There really was no way to miss it, but she did. On a lighter note, I did the backing up 100 feet. When the tester told me when, I stopped, and before I put it into park he asked me a few verbal questions, then proceeded to give me directions to leave the area and back to the parking lot where the parallel parking test would be done. Never put the car in drive, pressed the gas, and car went flying in reverse for about 20 feet. He apologized and said my fault for distracting you. As far as I'm concerned, that never happened. Opposite kind of story here. When I was taking driver's ed, I was in a car that had the brake on the passenger side for the instructor to use just in case. Going 35 down fairly busy street, my car all of a sudden comes to a complete stop. In horror, I look over at my instructor who is sound asleep with his foot on the brake. I just sat there dumbfounded. After a couple people honked real quick, he shook himself awake, mumbled a quick accelerate and sat up adjusting his glasses. So that was fun. Edit. Yes, I did parts. Guy was in his 70s and just didn't care about anything. The kids make minor mistakes, and yes, some do make scary mistakes. However, it's the adults that scare me most. Especially the seniors who are up for re-exam. Probably the worst test I've ever been on was this man in his 90s. I instructed him to turn onto a street when it is safe to do so, and he turned, narrowly missing a pedestrian. Not only that, but he was driving on the wrong side of the road. He came head to head with another car who pulled over to let him go. He was laughing about it because he was under the impression that it was a one-way road. When I got back to the office with him, I cut the test short and got him back in the quickest and safest way possible. He was astounded when I told him it was not a one-way street. Me: did you see any one-way signs? Him: no, but I assumed you were going to take me on one. Took a test with a girl who drove on the wrong side of the road and took a left turn into oncoming traffic all in the same drive. It was through my school and she was banned from taking it through the school because of that. When I was sitting my test, I asked the tester how many tests he did in a normal day. His answer was 10. Not all that surprising, until he followed it up with 10 and 8 will fail before making it out of the car park. I asked him to elaborate, and apparently the vast majority of test sitters will fail for administrative reasons, like arriving late to the test, not bringing their existing learner's licenses, or having a vehicle that wasn't road legal. The latter was more common than it sounds. When all lights turn, signals horn etc are tested in the car park before the test itself begins. Fail any of the above, and you've wasted your $75 and never even got into gear. When I went to take mine, the tester waited till I was at an intersection and then yelled turn left. She scared me so I did and failed. LOL. When I went back to try again, she was just ripping into this girl and her mom in the parking lot. I was like, at least I'll get a different tester cause she's clearly busy. LOL. During my test, there was a stop sign before entering the course. The instructor just told me to drive forward and looked at me. Needless to say, I stopped at the sign, look both ways before entering. I feel like it was a trick to see who would not stop. I wonder how many people fail because they just drove into the course without stopping. While I was waiting for my turn to do my CDL test, I watched a guy in a semi back into a light pole, and instead of seeing what he gently backed into, gassed it and knocked it over. Needless to say, I didn't get to take my test for an hour or so while they cleaned it up. That's all for today's video. Hope you guys liked it. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you want to support the channel, the best thing you can do is simply watch the videos. But if you really want to see the channel thrive, subscribe, like, comment, add to favorites, add to playlist, and share with friends. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Reddit and Insta. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you with tomorrow's upload.